Remember, this is a very rough cut, almost like watching rushes. A lot of the stuff will be thrown out during the actual editing.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time, this is Gareth from bookssongsandothermagic, and I'm doing a response video to Mike and Greg, who have been doing videos about film adaptations of books. So both their videos are kind of based around Del Toro's new Frankenstein film, which I'm looking forward to seeing. There's tons and tons of Frankenstein adaptations out there, and I don't think any of them are like the book. There was one that Kenneth Branagh did, which was called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and there are a couple of things that he did that other adaptations hadn't done, but it still wasn't like the book. So I don't know why he did that. Well, I do know why he did that, for publicity, but it's interesting that some books, people don't want to adapt them properly. But anyway, there are some good versions of that, and it's kind of an interesting thing looking at all the different types of adaptations that you've had of Frankenstein. And obviously the Frankenstein's monster image from Boris Karloff is so ingrained in our heads as well, that you end up with like Herman Munster and all that, because of the iconic image. But anyway, they were talking about that in a lot of their videos, and Mike had a general thread of adaptations are crap, and Greg's general point was, well, why bother seeing them? And I do think that, one, there are some really good ones out there, and sometimes there are adaptations that have some good elements that are not like brilliant, but they're still an acceptable addition to the to culture, and some are really good but actually deviate from the book. So The Shining is a good example of a really good film that is not really like the book. There's a link. You can tell it's an adaptation of The Shining, but it's so different in tone. It's so different with the characterization of the main characters. Some scenes are just added randomly. It's a very different book. A very different film. It's a very different book. It's a very different film, and Stephen King doesn't like Kubrick's treatment of it, but it's a really good film. So you do get that as well. And Greg's point, well, you can say no, but people wouldn't want to say no if they love the book in general. I mean, clearly Greg does, but most people, if they like the book, they're curious to see what's going to happen. And they're usually, I'd say, often hopeful that they're going to get a really good adaptation, or that some elements are going to be good. And some people are really good at being really rational about it and saying, well, I like this, but I didn't like this. So I enjoyed the film, but I wish this wasn't there, and that kind of thing. So it's not like they're heartbroken or really angry or furious or whatever. There's if you look at the internet, often it looks like everybody's furious all the time. But I think, you know, a lot of the time, if I talk to my mates or whatever about adaptations, people are pretty level-headed and go, oh yeah, that was quite good because of this, and this, but it's a shame they did this, or why did they leave this out, or, you know. So adaptations aren't necessarily things that you necessarily want to just refuse to see, and aren't always crap. That's my response to those two general points, that I do think there's some good stuff out there, and quite often, if they're not brilliant, there's some good elements. Often. Sometimes there are some bad ones. But what I wanted to do is be a bit more positive, and highlight 10 really good adaptations. And then I'll talk a little bit at the end about some things that are coming up in my reading that will also affect an additional opinion about adaptations. So I'll talk about that at the end. But first, let's talk about my 10 favourite adaptations, I guess. I mean, I might have forgotten some, but I'm going to start with this list of 10. And I'm going to do it in order, because number one is definitely number one. So to start off with, I've got a list here, so I've got to make sure I'll do it in order. The Colour Purple, 1985, Steven Spielberg adaptation of the Alice Walker book, 1985. The book came out in 1982, and very soon after that, Steven Spielberg adapts it into a really emotional, powerful film, and the performances are fantastic. You know, Whoopi Goldberg does an amazing job, and it's just a really successful adaptation. I would say the book is harder to read than the film is to watch, which is interesting, because we've said before in this channel about seeing abuse and that kind of thing on screen is harder. But I think the book, the way that Alice Walker delivers it, is more successful. But it is a really good adaptation, I'd say. So The Colour Purple is a very safe number 10. very happy with that. Number 9 is a film that's not actually mentioned very often, and I wonder if it's because it's not rated very highly. I'm not sure, but I think it's really good, and it was hugely impactful for me as a school boy, reading the book in school in the English classes, and then seeing the film really made it come alive when I was young. And that's 1984, from 1984. So it's the Michael Radford adaptation of George Orwell's book with John Hurt in the main part. And John Hurt's performance is amazing, but also Richard Burton was a great choice for O'Brien. And so obviously Winston Smith and O'Brien are the main characters, and they dominate the film. But the look of the film is really, really oppressive and quite unique, I think. So I don't know if you've seen 1984. I don't know how available it is for you to see, but I think it's a really successful film adaptation of George Orwell's 1984. My choice number 8 is from 1988, and that's Rob Reiner's incredible film, The Princess Bride. So obviously an adaptation from William Goldman, his book, The Princess Bride, which is also fantastic. And there's a real magic about the film. I think it's not just a great adaptation, but I think it's just universally loved anyway. It's a fantastic film, and probably a film that doesn't get mentioned very much in adaptations because it's a fun fantasy, like a family film. And I think usually when people complain about adaptations, they're normally heavier films. So there's a ton of adaptations of sort of family material, children friendly material. But yeah, The Princess Bride is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I think that's a very easy one to put in this list. One that does get talked about a lot, and it is fantastic, and that's the 1962 adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Another book that I read in school, another formative book for me. The film is incredible, and Gregory Peck does an iconic and memorable, career-changing performance as Atticus Finch. But it's just a remarkable film. But it is obviously a great book. So I think that's a really safe place in this list as well. My next one is a film I absolutely love, and it's a film that I think is pretty difficult to make. It's an adaptation of Stories of Your Life by Ted Chiang, an author that I think is just absolutely incredible. His 2 books, Stories of Your Life and Exhilaration, are 2 of my favorite books. And I'd say it's a really difficult Stories of Your Life, to adapt into a film. And Denis Villeneuve did an amazing job. I think he's such an interesting director, and obviously known for adaptations, really. And some of the things he's adapted. And that was the bleeding postman. So I had to go all the way downstairs. He was banging on the door. It's like, wait a minute. Anyway, where was I? Arrival, Denis Villeneuve. Absolutely brilliant, and I think difficult to adapt. The next one is from 2008, and it's the quite literal adaptation, I think, of No Country for Old Men. I read the book after watching the film, and it's done so well. The Coen brothers, so directed by Joel Coen, written by Ethan Coen, but that's kind of what they put on screen. But I think they both collaborate in both areas. And Cormac McCarthy wrote the original book. It's the only book I've read by Cormac McCarthy, but it's a great book, I think, but an amazingly tense film. I think it works better as a film, actually, because it's quite a visual, kind of dark, like as in physically dark situation in some scenes. And I think it just works really well as a film, and the way they did it, and the choice of the actor they chose. Bardem, what's his first name? Can't remember his name. Anyway, yeah, fantastic film. No Country for Old Men. The top four, because that was the fifth one. Top four. The next one is The Martian, 2015. Ridley Scott directed it. Ridley Scott is not absolutely reliable anymore. He's done some bad films and some okay films. He's in his early career, he was just like doing some incredible stuff, and obviously made probably his first film to make him, well, I suppose yeah. Anyway, Blade Runner, he did that, didn't he? But this is not what I'm talking about. The Martian, I'm talking about, and Andy Weir's great first book. I love the book, and I think the film really captures his position. It's funny, really good casting. Ridley Scott did a good job on that one, I think. But yeah, he's not always making great films anymore. In my third one, 1982's adaptation of The Thing. So this is adapting Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, which was made into a 50s film. I think it was late 50s, 58, I think maybe. It might have been 60s, but Thing from Another World, which is all right. But The Thing by John Carpenter is just phenomenal. It's a masterpiece. Someone asked me yesterday what my favourite film was, and I said The Thing. It's one of my students asked me what my favourite film was. I said The Thing. Obviously, there are several contenders, but this film is just such an incredible film. And it adds so much to the original story. So it's not just a great adaptation. It goes well beyond the story, The Thing does. So, yeah, amazing. And then I think the last two everyone will agree on, I think. So, and probably The Thing as well. But anyway, my number two is 1995's Frank Darabont film, Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is a really powerful, it's incredibly well made. It's a really powerful film. But it's also one of my favourite novellas, stories, novels that Stephen King wrote. I think it's just such a fantastic piece of work anyway. But it's done so well by Frank Darabont. Frank Darabont has got a thing with Stephen King. He did the great version of The Green Mile. He did a great version of The Mist. And he clearly relates to what Stephen King does. So I think he should just be the man to adapt Stephen King. He's also responsible for the first season of The Walking Dead, which is awesome. Yeah, Shawshank Redemption is a fantastic film and a great adaptation of a great piece of work by Stephen King. And then the last one, I could talk about the last one for an hour, but it's Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson did such an incredible job. So from 2001 to 2003, you had Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. He decided to make them into 3 films, which makes perfect sense. Not the case with The Hobbit. It makes perfect sense to make the 3 films. They're long films. They got so much in it. He made a few changes. He left some things out. I think the decisions he made were absolutely on point. The casting was incredible. The look of the film is incredible. All the work that got put into the effects, the practical effects, and the costumes, and the armor, and the weapons, and the characterization of the characters, the way that they were played was beautiful, and just like how I remembered the book. It's just ridiculous. Peter Jackson's adaptation of Lord of the Rings is insane, and it's a great testament to how good you can make an adaptation of a book. An adaptation of a book. That was funny phrasing there. Peter Jackson's version of Lord of the Rings just shows you why it's sometimes a great thing that we have these filmed versions of these books that we love. So yeah, that was where I wanted to finish. But I did want to talk about a couple of other things. Sorry, I just closed my book because I thought I was finished. Yeah, I wanted to talk about... I won't go on about I'm Legend again. I say it all the time. But what I am going to do with I'm Legend, I'm going to watch all 4 films again. Even I Am Omega. I'm going to watch all 4 films again. I'm going to do a video just on the 4 adaptations of I'm Legend. So that'll be fun. So I'm going to do that around Christmas time, I think. They still haven't made an adaptation of I Am Legend, even though they've done 4 different films of it. And then 2 books that I've seen adaptations of, but I haven't read the books yet, that I'm going to read soon. So One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey is one of them. And have I got that just here somewhere? Yeah. So I'm going to be reading that soon. That's on my immediate TBR. But also, I am currently, I say currently, later on today, I'm going to be starting The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. And I'm buddy reading that with Al from Big Hard Books and Classics. And that is an incredible film by Nick Rogue. So I'm interested to see what he was drawing from for that film as well. So yeah, lots to look at as far as new adaptations to add to my opinions about adaptations, but there are some good stuff out there. So I understand that it's disappointing when it doesn't match the book or doesn't even relate to the book sometimes, but I think it's exciting when people announce they're going to do it. I don't like remakes much. When they announce they're going to remake something, I think, oh really? But when they're going to adapt a book, I mean, the amount of times people say, why do they keep writing crap films or remakes when there's so much great material out there that they can adapt? You know, there are thousands of great books out there that haven't been adapted yet. And I think saying that adaptations are bound to be crap is obviously not the right message if there's so many great stories you can adapt. And Greg's point about, well, you don't have to go, so just don't go, because what's the point? You're going to expect it to be crap. I think people do want to see good adaptations, and there are some good ones out there. Misery's another one. I just thought of another one, Misery, another Stephen King one. That one's directed by Rob Reiner, who had already mentioned. Rob Reiner is such a good director. But although his he did What Lies Beneath as well, didn't he, by Richard Matheson. But that'd be an interesting one to do. Richard Matheson adaptations. Anyway, I'm thinking aloud now. You don't want me to think aloud on my videos. Thank you for watching, everybody. Stay curious.
Paint me a picture of what it's like to be